So Malcolm, how is it to handle a two-man casino? I mean, usually you have huge teams running casinos, but you're a two-man show. So, so how do you handle that?
Well, luckily, it's basically the same answer, but at the moment we're focused on sportsbook. So we don't have a casino offering. That was kind of a conscious choice to build our brand more around the sportsbook world, but it's the same idea. And running a sportsbook is arguably more difficult than a casino because you have to, do certain things. In fact, obviously we get the odds feeds from odds providers, but in order to crack sort of a niche market here in Ireland where we're based, we noticed that the Irish basketball sort of main Super League no one was providing odds for the games.
Oh, really?
So we thought, okay, well that's a gap in the market. So, but I literally have to, yesterday I was setting odds for 11 games.
Wow.
And I'm no expert on the league, so it's kind of fun because you actually feel like a real bookie.
Yeah.
And I definitely pay more attention to how those games go compared to the games where I don't have any control over the odds.
Yeah. Interesting. That's admirable. That's not something you see very often, at least. So what would you say is your primary focus right now?
So the primary focus is to complete what we're calling the proof of concept.
Okay.
Because We the Bookie is coming out to the market with essentially a twist on the conventional model. That twist being that we share half of our gross revenue every month with our losing customers, which is very sort of cooperative and very customer friendly. It sounds like a simple concept, but it actually has some powerful sort of second level effects on things like gambling, responsible gambling, customer engagement, things like that. So we're trying to prove that this concept is both profitable, that it ticks all the metrics that we're looking to, for now, impress investors with. Does our model lower customer acquisition costs?
Yeah.
Does it increase retention rates?
Yeah.
Does it foster word of mouth,
organic
growth? Things like that.
Yeah.
And once we prove that, then we'll get the investment to expand to the UK and the rest of the world and become the next Uber of the betting industry.
Yeah, it's very cool. So the WeShare, that's kind of your primary retention tool then?
Yeah.
Do you have any other retention tools, or is that like this is the sales pitch? Obviously it is, but
yeah, that is, on the one hand, yes, that's it. Yeah. On the other hand, there are aspects of it that you can use to enhance. So I guess to back up a little bit, because this concept of the WeShare is not that simple a concept when you actually dig down on it. So what does giving half of your gross revenue back to the losing punters actually mean in reality? So in reality, if every single customer lost that month, they would all get half back. That's a pretty simple math. Where it gets a little complicated is when you have the winners. So any winner will dilute that 50% down to as low as 0% if we have a losing month. December was a great month for us. Yeah. We had a healthy, ROI on bets, and our losing customers got 42.7% back. So literally, if a customer lost 1,000, they got 427 back cash in their account, which they can withdraw. Nice. They lost 100, they got 42 back. Whereas in prior months, we've had 3% if we've had we find it averages to about 25 to 30%, and we expect that to stabilize more as our customer base grows, because with the smaller customer base, there's more volatility, obviously. So that's how it works. But back to your question, what does that mean for other things? Well, for customer attraction, obviously that's powerful. So we would expect to be able to convert more customers based on any type of advertising. But then for retention is pretty easy. I mean, once people receive their first healthy WeShare, are they really going to go back to wherever else they came from? Yeah, it's pretty unlikely, unless they just have a bad experience with some glitch on our site or something. But the other thing that we want to really build out, and this will happen over time when we've the capital to invest in some tech and some higher customer numbers to make it relevant. But we call this the Bookie's View feature. And if you're a customer, Sal, and what would you bet on if you bet on a sport?
For me, it would be football.
Football. Okay. Football. Yeah. You bet on football. You're an active customer. It's still July and it's late July and the British Open golf is on. It's on TV. None of your Norwegian players are factoring and you don't bet on golf. So you're not really interested in the result from that perspective. So what We the Bookie wants to do is publish what our position is on each of the golfers. So let's say Rory McIlroy has been heavily backed, but Scottie Scheffler has not been backed. And they're battling down the stretch. You're going to be cheering for Scottie Scheffler because if he wins, the we share pool increases, which ultimately will increase the amount you get back at the end of the month if you have a losing month.
Yeah.
So this can be, we can do this for any popular sport, Premiership football, things like that. So it's a pretty handy way to increase the engagement, and essentially our customers can have a little bit of action on everything. Yeah. Without making a bet.
Very, very cool. That's very, very cool. Have you already noticed, you mentioned it already, but have you already noticed that players are more engaged and more loyal on We the Bookie compared to, I don't know, previous companies you worked with, industry standards, things like that? Have you already noticed some patterns there?
I have. Now, it's a little bit hard for me to compare because truth be told, I have never worked in this industry before, and this is my first company. So
all right.
A lot of learnings are going on right now.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but we're seeing the retention as being really strong. Our numbers are small right now, and one thing that hasn't really blown up yet is the friend-to-friend referral. To be fair, we haven't really set up a system for that yet. But I think at the moment, because we're so small and we don't have a marketing budget, et cetera, and because, quite frankly, we're presenting something that's so much better for the customer, like just legitimately, you have this sort of too good to be true phenomenon. Which is very real in this world.
Yeah.
And, it's just there. But the good thing about that is that once we do get to some sort of basic critical mass of a few more people using the platform, that goes away because then you're like, okay, I've got two friends who are on the platform. It's working fine. And that goes away. So yeah, I mean, basically the early indicators are really strong for things like retention, and we need to raise a bit more capital and test out the acquisition side of things.
Cool. And you mentioned that you do a lot of the odds building yourself, but you are also using some external providers, I guess, for odds. How do you decide on which one to choose? Because, I mean, there's quite a few to pick from. How do you go about to choose a provider for that?
Yeah, to be honest, platform provider has been the most challenging part of this experience. We went live originally on one platform that wasn't really fit for purpose. It was a fairly new company. And to be honest, they went out of business. But one good aspect of being at that company was that we liked the odds we were getting. Essentially, when you're giving 50% of your gross revenue back to your customers, you need to be very conscious of costs. So if we just plug and played sort of the standard business model for what our competitors are on, we would not be profitable. So we have to spend a little less on things like platform. We're not going to be dependent on the affiliate industry because the affiliate industry, they'll charge you like 30 to 50% of revenue. So we can't give half of our revenue to customer and the other half to affiliate. We're left with nothing.
Yeah, no.
But the beauty of our model is that we're not dependent on the affiliate industry. The whole reason the affiliate industry is so strong is that our competitors have no differentiation. No. So they depend on affiliates to say, okay, customers, go this way, go that way. Whereas we can do that ourselves by just presenting our model.
Yeah, very cool. And for these payouts, for payouts and withdrawals under the reshape model, are there any, I would imagine, if there are any unique challenges with the payment processing part of it? I mean, do you get a lot of feedback on this part? Like, are customers like coming to you with, hey, I should have this, but I only received this? And how do you go about that part of it?
So at the moment, it's a bit of a manual process. Obviously, we'd like to get to the point where it's much more automated through both the calculation is actually very simple. It's a spreadsheet. But at the moment, the process is that we literally go into each customer's account and manually, if someone has 10 euro, we put in the 10 euro, and then we send them an email, sort of a fairly standard email. Okay, the WeShare last month was 30%. You lost 100 euro. Therefore, we've put in 30 euro into your account. We'd like the platform to be able to do this, and so that when they log in, they'll have a little pop-up message saying this. We don't want to bug them with emails, but at the moment, that's just the way it is. So it's a problem that should be fairly easily solvable with just a little bit of tech.
Yeah, because that was one of my last questions. Was like the plan forward. You've already mentioned, creating a little bit of more awareness, getting more active, getting more investors, so you can expand to different markets, and obviously some automation. I would imagine with the player base growing, then that would need to get in place. Are there any other big plans on moving forward than what I already mentioned?
Not really, but essentially at the moment we're looking for a fairly modest raise, 200 to 500,000 to really focus on Ireland, treat that as our universe. And because that'll really allow us to properly prove out the proof of concept. And then we can very confidently go back to the sort of more institutional investors who can say, yes, you've done a very comprehensive proof of concept, and we're now confident that we can give you the money to do the expansion. But back to your earlier question, there was one little funny anecdote from a new customer. So I was actually in a pub before one of these basketball games. It was the finals of a cup, and I was speaking to a relatively new customer. He'd been there a couple months. December again was a strong month for us with the high WeShare amount, and this customer had actually had a winning month, so he didn't get the WeShare. And he said he was talking to another new customer who had just joined in December, who had lost I don't know how much, and this customer was saying, "Wow, like." Because they were really joining more for the basketball bets, they weren't even aware of the WeShare program. And they said, "Oh, did you get your Christmas bonus?" And the guy said, "No, I had a winning month, so I don't get it." And it was the other customer who had the losing month was almost sympathetic with him, saying, "Oh, you didn't get your." It's like, wait, but you lost money. I won money. You just lost less because of this. This is kind of funny.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, that's all the questions I had for this quick podcast. Is there anything else you would like to mention?
No, I guess the only other thing is we really think of ourselves as not only the most customer friendly, but also the most socially responsible betting company out there. The reason for that is not so much, how we act as a company, but really how our model changes behaviors. If you can imagine losing, say, €1,000 in the first 2 weeks of the month, and we've seen this behavior, by the way, and perhaps you can't really afford to lose more than that. If you're with another operator, you might want to chase that bet, and you're in a big hole. And to be honest, that operator might even be pushing you in that direction with a VIP program or something. With our model, and we've seen this, that customer will often massively scale back their betting. So if they normally bet €100 a bet, now they're betting €5 just to have some interest, or they just shut it down, and then on the first day of the next month, they get, say, 300 into their account. They start again, maybe lose that, and maybe a week after, then they deposit. So it's really responsibly calm their whole situation down, and they never go into a downward spiral. Obviously, there can still be people who do that, and we have all the usual things for that. But inherently, it's far less likely on our model.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Malcolm.
Thanks, Ståle.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll read a lot about WeShare in the future.
Okay. All the best. Thanks, Scott. Bye.